What happens when a con artist tries to scam a judge who's heard every lie in the book? Today, we're breaking down the moment a fake business owner walked into court thinking he'd talk his way out and walked out completely exposed. You thought you could scam your way out of my courtroom? The gavel hadn't even dropped yet, and the defendant was already sweating. Welcome back to the channel, because today's case is one you will not want to miss. A so-called business owner walked into court thinking he could talk his way past one of the sharpest judges in the building. He had a suit, a story, and a whole lot of confidence. What he didn't have was the truth, and he was about to find that out the hard way. Let's set the scene. Our plaintiff is a woman named Linda, mid-40s, a school teacher, someone who had spent years saving up for one thing, a kitchen renovation. Nothing fancy, new cabinets, new countertops, a fresh start in the one room she used every single day. She found a contractor online, we'll call him Marcus, who ran a small home improvement business. Flashy website, professional logo, glowing 5-star testimonials that, looking back, Linda admits felt a little too perfect. Marcus met her for a consultation, walked her kitchen with a tape measure and a clipboard, and gave her a quote that sounded fair. Then came the catch: $8,000 due up front before any work could begin. Standard practice, he told her. Covers materials and permits. Linda, trusting and excited to finally get her kitchen done, wired the money that same week. Then came the waiting. Days turned into weeks. No contractor showed up, no materials arrived, no permits were filed. Every time Linda called, Marcus had an excuse locked and loaded: a sick relative one week, a supplier delay the next, a mysterious backlog at the permit office after that. Classic stalling tactics, the kind scammers use to buy just enough time to disappear. After 2 full months of nothing but excuses, Linda had enough. She got in her car and drove to the business address printed right there on Marcus's card. What she found waiting for her wasn't an office. It wasn't a warehouse. It was a UPS mailbox store, a wall of small numbered boxes, and nothing else. There was no business. There never had been. Just Marcus, a laptop, a slick website, and a talent for sounding convincing. Furious and $8,000 poorer, Linda took him to court. And when Marcus got word he'd been summoned, he didn't panic. He prepared. He showed up in a sharp navy suit, hair combed, carrying a thick folder stuffed with paperwork, ready to perform the role of legitimate businessman one final time, for one final audience. But the judge presiding over this case had seen 1,000 Marcuses before. She'd heard every excuse in the book, watched 100 confident men walk in thinking charm could outrun evidence. And today, she was not in the mood for a show. The moment Marcus opened his mouth to explain the delays, the judge cut him off cold. "I've been doing this a long time," she said, leaning forward, eyes locked on him. "And I can smell a con from across the room." The gallery went dead silent. Somewhere in the back, a chair creaked. Marcus's confident smile, the same one that had charmed Linda months earlier, started to crack at the edges. She asked him a simple question: "Where is your business license?" Marcus flipped through his folder, stalling. He didn't have one. She asked for proof of the permits he claimed to have filed. "Nothing." She asked, flatly, for receipts showing exactly where Linda's $8,000 had actually gone. Silence. The kind of silence that says everything. That's when the judge leaned back and delivered the line that had the entire courtroom buzzing. "You didn't run a business, sir. You ran a story. And today, that story ends." Marcus tried one last desperate move. Straightening his jacket, he looked the judge dead in the eye and claimed the delays were due to supply chain issues, as if he were running a legitimate operation hit by circumstances beyond his control. He insisted he fully intended to complete the renovation. He just needed a little more time. And then, in a moment that no one in that courtroom saw coming, he asked the judge to order Linda to pay him an additional $2,000 to finish the job. The courtroom gasped audibly. Somewhere behind him, someone actually said, "Oh no, he didn't," under their breath. Even Linda, who had been sitting quietly, jaw clenched, fists tight in her lap, through the entire hearing, let out a disbelieving laugh, the kind of laugh that comes out when something is so absurd your brain doesn't know how else to react. The judge did not laugh. She simply stared at him. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, the kind of silence that feels like it stretches on forever when you're the one under the microscope. Marcus shifted in his seat. Finally, she spoke, her voice slow and deliberate, like she wanted every word to land with full weight. "Let me get this straight." She held up a finger for each point. "You took her money. You did zero work. You have no license, no permits, no receipts." She paused. "And now, you want ME to order her to pay you more?" Marcus opened his mouth to answer, some half-formed excuse already forming on his lips. But she wasn't finished with him yet. "That's not a business proposal," she said, cutting him off completely. "That's a confession." The words hit the courtroom like a slap. Marcus's face went pale. Whatever script he had rehearsed in the mirror that morning had officially run out. The judge then turned her attention to the evidence Linda had brought. And it was airtight. Bank statements clearly showing the $8,000 transfer, time-stamped and undeniable. A long thread of text messages, excuse after excuse after excuse, each one more absurd than the last. And finally, photos of Linda's kitchen, the exact same untouched, outdated kitchen from the day Marcus was supposed to start work, months earlier. Not a single cabinet removed, not a single tile cracked, nothing. Marcus had nothing to counter it with. No paperwork, no witnesses, no explanation. Just more excuses that were quickly losing their power in that room. The judge didn't need long to reach her decision. She ruled entirely in Linda's favor, ordering Marcus to repay the full $8,000 plus court costs on top of it. But before she banged that gavel, she wasn't quite done delivering her message. Looking directly at him, her voice sharp and unwavering, she said, "People like you prey on trust. You count on people being too polite, too busy, or too embarrassed to fight back." She let that sit in the air for a moment before adding, "Not today, not in my courtroom." As Marcus gathered his folder, the same folder he had walked in with so confidently, and shuffled toward the exit, every ounce of swagger gone, Linda finally allowed herself to exhale. Months of stress, of anger, of feeling foolish for trusting the wrong person, all of it lifted in that single moment. Justice had been served, not just financially, but publicly. The kind of accountability no apologetic phone call or excuse-filled text message could ever replicate. This case stands as a powerful reminder for anyone hiring a contractor, freelancer, or service provider. Always verify licenses before signing anything. Always get agreements in writing, and never, ever hand over large sums of money up front without real protection in place. If this story had you shaking your head in disbelief, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more courtroom justice content, and drop a comment below telling us exactly what you would have said to Marcus if you were the one sitting behind that bench.